And welcome to Google Plus Week, everybody. I'm Dan McDermott, your leader. Okay, so let's go to the panel. There's Mike Ellis. Let's go to the full panel. Alan Furstenberg in New York. Welcome, sir.
Hey, leader.
Yes. I'm sure it's a thrill to meet me, actually.
Yes, illustrious leader, it is.
and the fearless leader of all things tech, Craig Shipp, is here. Craig, welcome with your apples.
Yeah, how are you going to lead this show and Microsoft both at the same time?
Right. That's a good question.
Absolutely. I'm not going to comment on any speculation that I'm going to be the next CEO of Microsoft.
Pure speculation.
Michael, welcome from German Practice Hangouts.
Hello. Nice to see you again, Dan.
And Pam, who has changed into a new outfit for us. In Menifee, California. Welcome, Pam. Always a pleasure.
Hi, Dan. Hi, everyone.
All right, so good to have Pam here. Her smiling face, and she has
Thank
nice
God.
ceiling tiles. Okay, so this first story is insane. Alan, please God, tell me our beloved Vic Condotra is not going to jump ship. What's the deal here? And
Well,
what,
for starters,
what's going on at Microsoft? Was
let-
it voluntary? Tell us the status, because I'm not a fan. I was a fan.
Dan, let's step back and actually tell the one or two people who may not have heard so far
Right.
the big news that hit this morning, and that's that Microsoft has figured out a way to increase their share price. And the indisputable way to do it was to have their CEO announce that he's retiring. So Steve Ballmer has announced that he's going to be retiring within the next 12 months or so. And on this news, a great cheer went up from just about everyone everywhere. I don't think there was anybody disappointed in this news. And now so now the news stories about him are filled with pretty much, they can be broken down into three different stories. You have the huge amount of stories that are talking about how bad a job he did at Microsoft, and there's no shortage of these. There's the small number of stories who are talking about, no, he wasn't such a bad guy. He actually did a couple of good things there. And most people are ignoring those stories. And the vast majority of stories are columnists wasting who knows how much electrons everywhere saying who is going to replace him. And it so happens that on this very show back in April, we discussed exactly that question. We talked about exactly the possibility that Ballmer would leave, and one journalist's opinion about who they thought should replace him, and none other than Vic Condotra, who's currently working at Google and is in charge of a project that a couple of us may have heard of called Google Plus.
You know, it's not as crazy as we might think, because, of course, he used to work at Microsoft.
He used to be a fairly senior person at Microsoft.
And the last high-profile person in tech circles who left Google to become a CEO was Marissa Mayer, and their stock is up 80%. She's on the cover of Vogue. This could not be perfect timing for Vic Condotra.
We'll be talking about Vogue some more later, actually.
Because Pam's here. She
Well,
was on the
yes.
previous cover of Vogue. She was
Fashion?
But it
displaced.
is,
Vogue fashion?
yeah.
No, but
Yeah,
seriously,
I don't know
is
anything about that.
But seriously, yes, Vic is not an utterly ridiculous option. I mean, as we talked about in April, he does have the Microsoft history, and he's in a position at Google where he's got nowhere to go. He can't, the next level up from where he is now is Larry's position, and Larry's not leaving anytime soon. And
It would
even
be
if he did-
wouldn't it be a devastating blow to Google Plus, though? Because he was the guy who shaped it from the beginning. He's in charge of it. He's in charge of what we're doing now.
I see you nodding no, Pam.
And
What-
Google
what's your-
Google
Yeah.
Plus is just so successful.
Yeah, Pam, what are your thoughts on a devastating blow to Google Plus?
No, I think now that it's built, I think that he could go, and Google Plus would be fine. They have very competent engineers in place, and they just need maybe another figurehead, maybe Dave Besbris.
I
don't
worry
know.
though.
Go ahead, Michael.
I worry though about that. I'm not sure I agree with Pam on that point. the inspiration for the vision for what it will be in the future, that I don't think is necessarily carried by a whole lot of people. And somebody who helped build this thing from the ground up and made it into what it currently has achieved, which Craig poo-poos, but I think it's quite significant. I don't think those are a dime a dozen kind of executives at Google. I think Vic's done a superlative job making this thing out of nothing, and I don't want to see him leave to go to Microsoft, which I think is just a despicable company. I'll try to hold back and not express what I really think.
Oh, why not? Everyone else is in the industry.
Right.
I don't know, Craig. What were your thoughts on this? On what would happen to Google Plus if Vic left?
Sorry, obviously I don't share the opinions that Google Plus is this roaring success. I think it's got a long way to go before we can even attempt to call it a success. So I wouldn't mind seeing some fresh blood come in and some new ideas, ways to get people to come into Google Plus and actually stay and actually use it. As far as Microsoft goes, I mean, I don't see them as being relevant. I see them as...
You don't see them... No. Seriously, you don't see them as being relevant?
Yeah, I see that they're slowly going to fade away.
Yeah, but you see that about Apple and Google and everybody else, too.
But Microsoft, a little quicker. The reason I say this is people that want to get their email and get Facebook and all these kinds of things can now just buy a tablet and do a lot of those things that they normally do with a Windows PC at home. And I think more and more people are starting to do just that. And then the business users or power users or whatever you might want to call them, I think more and more of them are going to slowly start going to other options as well. It's going to take some time, but the John Q. Public, that's going to happen a lot faster. And so as that erodes, and then as businesses start to learn that there are other ways to do things other than the Windows environment, I think that their lock on a lot of the things they have a lock on right now is going to rapidly become unlocked. And
I generally agree with you, but let me play devil's advocate for a moment there. There are a lot of things that that Microsoft is doing right now that are not being done by a lot of other people, really. I mean, they are probably one of the bigger cloud computing platforms out there still. Right. There are some people who say that they're the only ones who are really challenging Amazon in cloud computing, even though Google's got a massive presence. A lot of what they're doing, they've essentially dethroned Oracle as the #1 database. They're doing a lot that that nobody else is really doing, and they're doing it behind the scenes. Windows is really just the visible face, in the same way that Google Search is the visible face of Google.
Yeah. But you don't think that more and more people are going to be starting to use things like Google Docs and other options for the things that they're currently using Windows for? I mean, I gave up on Windows.
I do, but like I said, I'm playing devil's advocate here. There are certainly a lot of people who think otherwise. Go ahead, Michael.
This is a very legitimate point you're making, Alan, even if you're doing it as devil's advocate, because I'm very concerned about Google succeeding as an ecosystem to replace Microsoft as the primary desktop operating system, or operating system in general, the one we generally use, because they're not moving along in functionality nearly fast enough to overtake Microsoft as a juggernaut. So if you take the primary application most people use, it's email and Word and Excel, Word and Excel. I guess those are the primary things people use. And Gmail's fantastic with that. They've done a great job with that, but lots and lots of people on Earth use Outlook, and Outlook.com is a very credible alternative to Gmail now. I don't like it, I don't use it, but lots of people that are used to Outlook use Outlook.com, and they're fine with it.
It's credible, but it's not. It doesn't have, as I understand it, it doesn't have the user base that anywhere near that Gmail does.
No, it doesn't. But you have to say they have Outlook.com and they have Outlook, and so if they are effective in marketing to their corporate base, they can migrate a lot of those corporate customers. Could potentially migrate those customers from Outlook to Outlook.com and retain that big chunk of the market.
That's a valid point, and they are doing that sort of thing with things like Office 365.
Absolutely.
Which is essentially their equivalent of Google Docs.
And people that I'm talking to are telling me, I haven't used it yet, so I can't say personally, but someone that works for me who argues with me all the time about using Google instead of Microsoft says that Office 365 is the complete functionality you get from Office if you have it on your desktop, if you're a normal run-of-the-mill user, like certainly I am. You know,
But there's one caveat to that, though. Office 365 has a Windows requirement.
Yes.
Well, and isn't there also a fee associated with it?
Oh, sure. But if you're a company, there's a fee associated with Google Docs, too.
Right.
Yeah, but if you're an individual, there isn't.
No,
Yeah, but
and
individuals
Google
aren't where this is going to be won or lost anyway. I mean, Microsoft has the individuals because it has all the businesses.
Yeah, I think it's going to lose both, and I think that Google and others are going to come forward with solutions. I mean, I'm not going to count out Apple in all of this with their iPads and so forth. If you get Keynote and their programs that do all these things, they're really good and they're great on the iPad. And so
yeah, but an iPad is no replacement. It's never a replacement for a device that has a keyboard.
But
yeah,
Craig,
but actually, Keynote is much better than Microsoft's variety of that. Most experts say so. I mean, there are options. There are going to be more options, and I just don't think that Microsoft is going to be able to maintain its stranglehold on that market. We'll see. Time will tell.
That's what it is, Craig. It's the power of incumbency. It's fear of change. It's the expense and the hassle of change. Craig and I are in a business relationship, and right now we're going through a period where we have to change has been thrust upon us, and it's a hassle and it's a distraction. And neither one of us wants to have to deal with this. It's technical, it's like a platform change of sorts. And so we're dealing with this, and it's a real pain in the ass. So I'm thinking like my newspaper office, I've got a staff. The graphics guys are all iPhone guys. And the sales staff and the reporting staff are all Windows people. And we use, in fact, we were even reluctant to go with Windows 7. I'd be terrified to go to Windows 8 if we upgrade an Office PC. We're still on XP because it works. I know it works. I know how to do it. We're still using Adobe CS2, which is from 06, because there's no learning curve if I continue to use CS2, and it does what I need to have done. And so you're looking at companies. I wish Bruce were here, or Sri, who are enterprise. Pam, you should weigh in on this.
Yeah,
Can you imagine if your whole division switched to apps? Go ahead.
Right. My company, the company I work for, not my company. Wish it was my. No, I don't. Is a multinational global company, and we just upgraded to Office 2007. We use Lotus Notes. IBM has decided to put the kibosh on Lotus Notes, and so they will soon no longer be supporting Lotus Notes, so we are going to have to find something else.
They finally killed it, huh? Slow and painful.
That was the first spreadsheet, right?
Lotus Notes?
No,
it's
you're going to be hurt
They
soon,
were
Dan.
the first.
That's what we use for our email. And first of all, the company restricts everything. So the network is restricted. We can't install any programs and all that stuff. And the IT department goes through a lot of stuff to just approve a program. And so changing from Microsoft isn't going to happen anytime in the near future. And, you're talking 50, 60,000 employees.
Yeah, wow.
More than that,
yeah,
workstations.
There will probably be some that'll hold out to the bitter end, just like you're using Lotus Notes.
All I'm saying is once you have a huge ship like that, right, a huge company like that, to change we're okay. Let me give you an example. We're changing from Oracle to SAP. That's an ERP system, right?
Yay!
And it's taken 3 years just to set this up.
Oh yeah.
It is not an easy thing. The ship is huge. It's multinational, global. There has to be permissions. It has to be a verified system, blah, blah, blah. So, Microsoft may be on the downswing, but like you're fond of saying about Google, it's going to be a long, slow decline.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And we
It's not
need
going
guys
to be
remember,
fast.
it actually did make money. It does make money. It's not that
Yeah.
Microsoft is losing money. They're making money. Just they're
Right.
not making as much money as they or anybody else would like. We have a whole pile of comments I want to start getting in. From Bruce Turner, he kind of is agreeing with what we're saying here. Companies still run Exchange servers for their emails and calendar. Ours does, and that's not going to change until somebody gives them a good reason why they should switch away. And that's either Microsoft giving them a reason saying, hey, we can run your Exchange servers cheaper for you, or that's Google saying, hey, we'll be able to run it cheaper and better for you.
I mean, I think that's the best. That's the best example. With Google is the very best in what they do. The very best thing they do is email and calendars. And if they can't win over the Outlook users, the Exchange users, with that great product, how are they going to get them on Docs, which doesn't do letterhead templates properly? I mean, they're a
Google
long
Docs
way
is no substitute.
Microsoft.
Yeah, Michael. Google Docs is no substitute for full-blown Microsoft Word. Although,
It depends on what you're doing.
open. I mean, there are but in general, like OpenOffice is a substitute for Microsoft Word.
Well,
But-
I know a lot of people that would violently disagree with you on that point, Dan. But Michael Mason isn't one of them. I was a Microsoft registered partner for many years and moved to OpenOffice some time ago purely down to cost.
But to say that Google Docs is not a replacement for Microsoft Word, it depends on what you're using it for. I replaced Microsoft Word with Google Docs, I don't know how many years ago, and I haven't looked
Yes, but-
back. It
Yeah,
works
yeah,
great.
I
for
mean,
me.
yeah. If you're,
So it depends on what you're doing with your document.
Google Docs is a replacement for Word. I mean, for WordPad, but it's not a replacement for a full-blown desktop version of Microsoft
Well,
Word.
yeah, it is.
It is
It's
for
a
me,
replacement
Dan.
It's a replacement for 90% of what people use Word for. The question is it worth paying for the extra 10%? And
Okay,
that's the
but-
question I've been asking you now for over a year, Dan.
Yeah.
When we
No,
talk
no,
about
it's not.
Starbucks,
I'm a fan of OpenOffice. When we get computers for the newspaper, I don't buy the Microsoft Office suite. We use OpenOffice.
And Dan, I know people that would say
it's
that-
free.
I
How
know
much
people
does-
that would say the exact same thing about OpenOffice. They'd say it's a ghetto Office suite, that it doesn't do, a bunch of what Microsoft Office does, and you can't replace Microsoft Office with OpenOffice.
Clearly,
And these are people that hate Microsoft Office.
Clearly, Microsoft Office is the most full-featured, non-Apple, text editor.
And Dan, I'm going to cut you off because the YouTube folk are saying that you still have echo, so you need to go check out your microphone.
I'm checking it, and I'm going to watch it now. So go ahead.
Okay, so we
So
have
we all
someone-
agree again.
Yeah, once again, I don't know. I think Dan disagrees with us, but he's wrong in this case.
Microsoft is going to go gangbusters now.
We still have lots more comments. We have this thought from Gary Levin. Bombers and MBA, and Microsoft needs creativity, social media, research and development. Sell off Xbox, spin off cloud from commercial division versus consumer products. The product cycles are very different for each market. I think Gary's got some points there that, trying to manage a consumer division in the same way you're managing the enterprise division is a big mistake. And there have been a lot of people who have been suggesting the same thing he did. I got to tell you, though, Microsoft's research and development department is actually one of the bigger and better R&D departments out there. They are the ones who came up with good multi-touch first. They are, the Kinect is an awesome technological achievement. Both of those came out of R&D, and Microsoft R&D does a lot of really awesome stuff. You just never see it in the products.
I think I've licked the audio issue. I think it was an aux send. can someone comment and who's watching and say when Dan said 1, 2, 3, it was fine, or it's still echoey? Go ahead, Alan. Sorry.
Okay. And we had, whoops, wrong button. And from Michael Daniels, I think Bill Gates takes over as CEO, same as what Steve Jobs did when he was rehired at Apple. Go ahead, Michael.
I'm curious if Michael thinks that essentially means that Microsoft is on a death knell, ringing a death knell right now. That's why they think they're so desperate they have to bring back Bill Gates. I don't know if Michael can hear me and answer that, but I'm curious.
That is certainly the common consensus, that Microsoft has begun their downward death spiral.
Do we
Because of
even
Obama.
think that would be enough to bring Bill Gates back? I mean, he's got plenty of money. He's doing what he loves to do. Do we really think that he would come back under those circumstances?
He's chairman at Microsoft, so he still has a vested interest in the company, obviously.
Oh, yeah, I mean, he does, but he's doing what he loves to do. He's still got plenty of money to last him the rest of his life, and he's still got a lot of undone things to do.
Right. I don't think so. I think he's very committed to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. We've heard him make...
That's the key. He's very committed. He wants his legacy to be, saving the world from infectious disease and things like that. And if his stock continues to tank, then his net worth will decline, because his net worth is based largely on Microsoft stock price. And, is it in the best interest of his charity and charitable causes for him to allow that to continue? We don't know the backstory here. We don't know because Ballmer was the hand-picked successor of Bill Gates, and he's been in there since 2000, so 13 years.
Do we know what portion of his wealth is still in Microsoft?
Obviously not, but I'm speculating that it's a significant
Because if
chunk
it's
of
the vast
change.
majority, that's a mistake on his part. He should have been getting out over the years. He should have been divesting himself a little bit. But oh well. Hindsight 2020. He didn't see the internet coming. That's the whole thing. They just didn't see the internet coming. And
they did. They
that's
did.
the price.
They were... Come on.
I don't think they did. I don't see evidence
no.
that they were embracing it in the mid-'90s the way they
That's
should
not
have.
fair.
That's not,
Internet
as much as I will knock Microsoft, and trust me, I will be at the head of the line to talk about how lousy Microsoft is. Microsoft was way out in front on this whole internet thing.
Why did they let Google get the toehold that they got? Why did they let all these other companies get the huge, toehold and market shares that they got in these various niches?
Because
if
they
saw it coming.
Well, because what's the right way to put this one? They anticipated certain things about the internet, and they were right on them, and they were way wrong on other aspects of the internet. They didn't, for example, see how search was going to be the crucial component to it.
And that's huge.
Well, in hindsight, yes, that's huge. What they thought was that digital rights ownership was going to be the big component of the internet. And Bill Gates made a massive investment in owning the digital rights of
I
things.
don't even see any evidence that they saw the value of portal websites like Yahoo and so forth. I don't see evidence that they really embraced the internet.
There's plenty of evidence they were embracing portal websites. They were investing in that up front as well. But the other thing is
that they
were investing in the infrastructure. They thought that the internet, needed an infrastructure to be built on, and they thought they could do it. It was Google that came along and said, we don't actually need any Microsoft infrastructure to do what we want. And they proved that you can do massive data without Microsoft software. I mean, for all of us, almost none of us remember at this point. Does anyone remember what TerraServer is or was? Obviously not.
No.
It's Google Maps. What we think of today as Google Maps, mapping the entire world, using satellite photos to get coverage of it, and being able to quickly and easily zoom around it. That was TerraServer. They did it in '94.
Wow.
All of these companies,
when I think
but
about
Craig,
Microsoft, I don't think about internet services. I don't think about dominating things like search, dominating portals the way Yahoo has. I don't see them establishing any local portal websites. I just don't see evidence that they're in what I think are going to be the major growth areas of the internet. I just don't see them as being players.
Well, but at the time they were they were essentially in a fight with Sun Microsystems and Oracle. I mean, that was the battle that was being fought in the mid-90s. Was Microsoft versus Sun and Oracle for who was going to dominate the servers of the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And Sun had their Java technology, and remember, Java technology was a client-side technology. It wasn't even a server technology. And Microsoft had their solution, which was ActiveX. And ActiveX was winning for a long time. Java really was not. It wasn't until Flash came out and took them both by surprise. What really happened is that both sides of the battle, the Sun Oracle and the Microsoft side, they both lost because the small guys were able to do things that the fast guys
you're
couldn't
talking
do.
about infrastructure plays. I'm not talking about infrastructure plays. I'm talking about services and all these other things that we've seen that have popped up that are huge.
But that's not the
Mapping,
internet.
Yahoo, search, all of these things. Even mobile, they didn't jump into that in the early
They did
days.
jump into mobile. Oh, come on. You don't remember Windows CE?
They weren't successful.
Well, no, that's another story.
Jumping in and being successful. Being
You
successful.
can argue that they screwed up. They made a lot of mistakes and they did a lot of things badly, and they did. But
Yeah,
you can't
that's
say
my
they didn't try.
point is,
But
I'm
you
not
can't
saying
say they weren't there.
trying. I'm not saying they weren't trying. I'm just saying that they didn't get a significant toehold in any of these major areas, and they let other players come in from nothing and dominate things like search and so forth. And
A lot of companies do
can't-
missteps, Craig. Google neglected search, or obviously didn't neglect search. They neglected social for a long time. And they tried, and they had missteps. And then they had Google Plus, which is still not Facebook by any stretch, but Google Plus is to
still a misstep, really.
But Google Plus is to Facebook what, or Facebook is to Google Plus what Microsoft Office is to Google Apps, and the Chromebook. It's hard to beat the incumbent. Because switching's a pain, upgrading's a pain.
Well, no, Dan, that's not the issue. Isn't it's hard to beat the incumbent? It's hard in some ways, though, for the incumbent to know which way to jump.
That's why they all jump in so many different ways. I mean, Google looks at an acquisition every week. That was in an interview with Larry Page.
Jumping. Google jumping is the fact that they're also, working on driverless cars, and they're working on Google Glass, and they're floating balloons, literally.
And
That's
some of these
jumping.
things work, and some don't. And they put their hands in a lot of different pots, hoping
Right.
that they'll find gold in one of them.
Microsoft's problem is that it did start to do that. The problem is it made its bets in some bad ways, and in other ways it fell into a very, very classic IBM strategy, that it didn't want to actually jeopardize the thing that was making it money in order to potentially make money in the future. And let's be honest, in some ways that strategy has worked out really well. Their servers are dominating, are a massive force on the internet still.
And it's still working out for the cable companies for now. But I think eventually it's not going to work out for either.
And this is why Microsoft did start branching off into things. They had been dabbling in consumer electronics for decades, and they finally hit it big with Xbox. They had been dabbling in, in phones for a very long time, and maybe they did okay with the latest one, but maybe it's too late. We don't know that right now. It's only been out a year. What was Android? Nowhere. Am I writing Don't get me wrong.
The problem is I don't know how much oxygen there's going to be left in the environment for them once all of these players get their toehold. I mean, Android
I agree with
has
you.
all the low-end stuff Android has. Apple's making a play for the high end. There's going to be a little bit in the middle there, a little bit of breathing room, but I think it's going to be tough for them.
And Dan, in case you hadn't heard, your echo is gone.
Yeah.
So continuing on, we started this by talking about Vic, and we actually did have a bunch of comments related to that directly. This was earlier from Brad. Would Vic want the job? Ha ha ha. I think Vic would make an excellent Microsoft CEO, but I advise him to stay at Google until everyone on Earth is aware that Google Plus is a resounding success and much more than the booming number 2 social network that is largely a ghost town.
Good thing Vic's a young man. It might take a while.
He's actually
And-
4 days younger than I am, which is
Yeah, he's a
but
young
he's-
man.
at some
And-
point income-wise our roads forked. And
Give it time, Dan. You'll catch up.
yeah, he was born June 6, 68, and I was born June 10. And I've been to India, but he was born there. I was born in Japan. That's why I'm so short.
6 years younger than me.
So, okay, so we all agree that
And
Vic-
this thought from Michael Daniels, pondering maybe Vic can merge Google and Microsoft. That is a really scary thought, I'll be honest. I worry that the two of them are too similar in a lot of ways as it is now.
the bottom
I don't
line is, Alan, this is it's about the stock price in the long term, and it's about fails. I mean, the RT was a $900 million fail, and now we're hearing that they're going to give them to schools. Rather than put them in the
Dan, we're
landfill.
getting reports that your audio cut out.
Hello, 1 2 check, 2 1 2 1 2. I think I'm back because I can
Okay.
see it on the thing.
I don't know.
Flawless-
Bruce and Cadeas
on my
reported
Microsoft
that,
computer.
that's really ghetto, Dan.
Yeah,
you know
how's that working out for you, Dan?
Yeah, it's great.
I'm sitting here on a 6-year-old Apple. I only run once a week for this show.
Don't get me wrong. I had to ditch my Apple because it was really crapping out in Hangouts. But my 249 Chromebox is doing a wonderful job on it.
Yeah, this machine is actually 6 years old. It's amazing.
Anyway, I think we've kind of beaten this subject to death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My closing thoughts on that, and then I want to explain the audio thing. Is Steve Ballmer was the handpicked successor of Bill Gates, and he's been there for 13 years.
He's been there for 13 years, but you got to remember, he's been a Microsoft employee for decades.
He's his original
he was-
equipment. Yeah.
He was employee number 30.
Yeah, and I think I draw on, not yet, but he's in Tim Cook's shoes. I mean, Bill Gates was one of those guys, like Elon Musk, like Steve Jobs, that were the original innovators of a great company, and it's hard to fill those shoes. And in some cases, the original innovator gets kicked out, and for good reason. Edison is an example. The company that's now GE is from Edison, and he was great at inventing the light bulb. He wasn't great at running a light bulb factory. But Steve Jobs left and came back from Apple, and created the greatest tech company ever by innovating in the right ways. I mean, he made gambles, and then they paid off. The iPhone, it was a totally strange thing for them to do, and it's taken off, and that's their main cash stream. So we'll see what Microsoft does, and we'll see what happens. But they got a big decision to make, and we started with the speculation about Vic and Dotra, and it's interesting because if I were Vic and Dotra and I were interested, and I've not spoken to him about this, I've not asked him, he wouldn't tell me anyway, because I may shoot him a message and ask him, is it no or no comment? But this would be the perfect week for him to be speculated about, because Marissa Mayer, Yahoo, after for the first time in a few years, Yahoo's combined web traffic, which kind of overblown because they've bought some new properties and that's added in, was slightly bigger than Google's, and she was on the cover of Vogue, and she's I think I saw on one of the morning shows this morning. I was watching the morning shows for whatever reason. Please forgive me, on broadcast television, and they were saying, is Yahoo killing Microsoft or Google? Are they out Googling Google at their own game, or some ridiculous thing? So we'll see. And
But by the way,
Yahoo's
Dan,
stock
quicker-
price is up 80% over the last year. And that's a huge plus for Marissa Mayer, who's in that hot seat. And so this would be a great time if you were Vic and Docher being courted, because they're like, you know what, Google's doing it right. And if nothing else, they would get rid of the Scroogled campaign. And I would consider that a personal victory, because I hate that. That is so preying on stupid people and causing them to have fear
They're
that's not
outright-
well placed is
You
ridiculous.
know, there was actually an update to that one this week, and I left it out because I really didn't want to go there. But maybe we'll go there later, talking about how Microsoft, in their latest campaign, outright lies. I mean, just blatantly outright
Please
lies
add
on their
it, because
latest
I would
Google
love to
campaign.
troll Microsoft a little more. But
The old
first, let me,
Microsoft
while
is
you add
back.
that into the topics, let me explain the audio thing. Here's what happened. I have a complicated, tricky setup, because this is not an HOA, a Hangout on Air. This is a YouTube live stream, and I'm using a video call on a separate computer, bringing that into a mixer, and to get better audio quality, the mixer is piping into my Intensity Pro card, which is a fantastic lossless ingestion method for audio. And the problem is that a Google video call won't accept that. So when I use my main computer, which I'm using my streaming computer during the week, like if Craig and I or Alan and I are in a video call about something, then it won't accept the audio. So I have an aux send into my line in on the card in that computer, which is crappy quality compared to the Intensity Pro. But Google Hangouts, despite my frequent complaints and requests, does not work with the Intensity Pro card. So I had the aux send up, and even though I can't hear it and wasn't aware of it, it was sending it twice, and there was a latency. So that's what happened for you geeks who know stuff like Bruce, trying to figure out what happened. That's what I did. So I just muted the aux sends, and now you're only hearing me once, and once is enough. Trust me. So anyway, that's what happened. So I apologize. So anyway, Alan, what's next on our plate? I'm trying to skip away from
Before you go to the next thing, when you were talking about Yahoo and Marissa Mayer, the Flickr was down for a couple hours today.
You know what? I didn't hear that at all.
Is there more to that story, Craig, or is this one of those tree falls in the woods and nobody
Well, I
notices?
mean, she, they did the facelift and they're working on Flickr and so forth, and it's had some issues, and even yesterday there were some photos in my Flickr stream that weren't even my photos. I mean, it was really bizarre.
Wow.
And then
But
I
like
went
Google
to-
goes down for 5 minutes, and Obama's canceling his vacation.
Yeah, when it was
Flickr
down
goes
today,
down, and none of us knew about it.
Obama never cancels vacations.
when it was
Don't kid
down
yourself.
today, I searched and I went to, and there's a website, it tells you how long the site's been down and all that, and then everybody has all their comments in there. And I mean, it's been doing a lot of strange things lately. So, I mean, I hope they get it squared away. I'm glad they're trying to update it and improve it and so forth. But I mean, it was literally down for a couple of hours.
You know, Dan, that's actually your point about Google being down for 5 minutes is a good one. There was actually some review on that one that happened I think it was last Friday even. Google was down for 5 minutes. During that time, web traffic was down 40%.
If
I think that
Netflix
was a BS story.
if Netflix ever
trying
went
to-
down, or the next,
Yeah.
I bet when Netflix goes down, I bet everyone's broadband speeds, like everyone has
Goes up.
10 up
Yeah.
and 80
Right,
down.
there's another
you know?
40% that suddenly stops happening.
So there's some good things that can happen from a network outage.
Yeah, I think that was a link bait story.
People use
buying
landlines
those
and
numbers.
read books, all this crazy. Like when you have a power outage, and I actually read a book, I dust it off and read the freaking book. My sister's book would be a good one to read next time you have a power outage.
As
It's
an
called
That's a heck of a book.
Did I Say That Out
Read.
Loud? And there's a very embarrassing chapter about me. If you want to troll me, you can do so by reading my sister's book.
That's a good book. It's got some good reviews on Amazon.
I think it has, the last time I
It's a great
checked, it had
book.
like 16.
Is that
Perfect
what's the
5-star.
title of it again, Dan?
I think it's funny you should ask, Craig. It's see, he's a reverse troll too. He's a good troll. Did I Say That Out Loud by Kelly McDermott Harmon. It's an excellent book. Michael Ellis, you've read it. I think you were laughing out loud on the plane and disturbing your plane mates. And you'll concur that there is a very embarrassing chapter about me in it.
Yes, although her stories are hilarious. Dan is an interesting part of the book, but I can tell you it's worth reading no matter who you're reading it about because it's very funny. I
Excellent.
bought it
Everybody
because
go
I
and
knew
buy the
Dan,
book
but I
and-
think it was hilarious and I loved reading it anyway. Sorry.
Everybody put your comments on there and rate it 5 stars.
And Michael, put your nickels in your pocket because of inflation. It's no longer. Okay, so what's up, Alan? I'm not sure where we are.
Yeah, next up is Google has released an update to Google Plus that introduces a feature that seriously people have been asking for 2 years. And they released kind of this stupid workaround. And Michael, I'm going to get your take on this one because this is right up your alley. They finally integrated Translate into Google Plus.
Yeah, and I love the idea of it, Alan, but unfortunately I haven't seen it yet because, of course, I'm an apps customer. So, because I pay for Google products.
Seriously?
I don't get it. I don't have it yet. So I've been looking for it every day, and I don't have it yet.
No. This I don't believe.
I
that they
think he
actually
has it.
screwed
He
that
doesn't
up
know.
so bad.
Show him how to do it.
Well, the problem is it's actually mostly invisible.
Built in,
It's-
right?
Yeah, it's just built in. If you see a post
I mean,
that
I get.
There's a little button on top of the. I can't screen share to Michael. I can. Sorry.
No, I saw
The wrong
video
button.
image captures of people who who were showing how it worked, and I went to my stream, and I don't see any place where I can do translate.
Well, are you looking at posts written in a foreign language?
Of course,
what do you think?
Moritz
I mean,
has
I-
one. Moritz.
I do that
does
every
random
day.
German post writes, right? Let me see if I can find it on Moritz's.
I read and write posts in German every single day. So if this were something that applies to anybody, it's me.
No, I'm sorry, Michael. It's not.
Well,
it's not
okay.
apps related. It might be you still, but it's not apps related. I needed to check this out, and let me do a screen share quickly.
Well, okay, I don't have it, so I was assuming it's because I'm an apps client.
And I went on my apps account, and yes,
Okay.
it's my apps account, and
And you looked at me.
and there's Moritz, and this is obviously something that I cannot read because I don't read German. At least I assume it's German.
I don't see the option on his posts.
And
It is
there's
German.
this little translate link right at the bottom of it,
Yeah, I don't have that yet.
and if
Oh,
I click it, it just magically changes.
I can check now. I didn't have it earlier. I didn't have it yesterday. I don't know if I have it today. I didn't
His
look.
his story changes.
Yeah, right.
No, I'm looking. Yeah, I
but
see it. I see it. If I look here on Moritz, I see a German post. I have it as well, right here. And then
So I'm
if I
gonna look now,
click,
too.
if I click on the post, then I have the translate button, and then I have the old thing that pops up on top here. This page is in German. Would you like to translate it? But even within the Google Plus stream here, I have this translate button at the bottom. And if I
Right,
click it, let's
that's
see
the
what it
important
says.
change.
Maybe it's maybe the problem is that everything I see from Moritz is already in English. Let's see.
I had to go find a post from him from the 21st.
Okay.
If that helps
I'm
narrow
still-
things down.
I'm looking still. Hold on.
It appears to be about cars.
There's last week's guest in this animated GIF I see, Natalie, having. I'm not sure what the hell she's doing, but she looks like
So
she's
I
having
don't
a
know.
great
My
time.
my biggest issue with this isn't that they've given us the feature, because I think it's a decent feature, and it's it's not implemented badly, at least it doesn't seem to me to be for me. My biggest problem is that it took them 2 freaking years.
Okay, so I can retract my statement. Moritz's post in German does have a translate button under it on mine now. That was not true as of yesterday.
Okay.
Maybe Chi
You know,
was involved, because I could totally see Chi taking 2 years before they finally convinced him to add a button. Because Chi does not like to
Michael-
add any buttons.
Yeah.
Michael, have you considered that it wasn't translating your post because it doesn't like how well you speak German?
That's not the case.
Well, it definitely considers that, because if you were a German speaker, it knows that, and it wouldn't offer to translate a German post. It wouldn't offer to translate an English post. If you were a German
Yeah, no,
citizen,
that's
it would
right.
offer to translate my English post, right? So it has to take that into account. So maybe you've found a
That
bug.
would be true, except I'm just being trolled.
Yes.
We've reached out to Google to troll
so,
you.
So what's your take on? And here's a point from Cadeas, talking about how there was an extension that gave you this feature for Google Chrome that would do the translate for you, and saying it's been around for about 1.5 years. And this is
Yes.
even a Google provided extension. This wasn't somebody else writing it. This was from Google.
Right. Yeah, and I saw the extension and I used it for a little while, but I had problems with it and eventually had to get rid of it. I don't recall now what the problem was, but I got rid of a lot of the extraneous extensions because I was having trouble.
And my problem with the extension is that who freaking wants to install an extension?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
why-
I don't
and-
want that.
Right, and especially if it forces you to use Chrome, which yes, I like Chrome. I use Chrome all the time, but
And
it
when I go
forces you to
somewhere I
use
don't
Chrome.
have Chrome, I don't have the stuff that I'm used to using.
Right,
And if Google can implement it against Google Plus, why can't Google just put it in Google Plus and forget the extension altogether?
exactly.
It should be easier.
yeah.
That's one thing Craig always harps on, and he's right. Is that
And he's right.
when he brings people in, newbies, you could be. I mean, I know people who are totally not technically inclined, have feature phones. They get Facebook. It's easy. It makes sense to them. Nobody has to. You know, my 75-year-old parents are on Facebook. They're not coming here. I've
Yeah,
tried.
but this isn't.
and so
this
this
isn't a
is
case-
good. This is
This isn't
you
a
know,
case of it. This is a case where this is an easy feature. This is an obvious feature. This is not a feature that it should have taken 2 freaking years to implement.
Yeah, I mean they already
But wait
had
a
this
minute
great
now,
translation machine, and they just all they had to do was
How
put a
many
button
people
and
need
use the API.
translation? I don't need it. I mean, I think most users, they you know, all the people I know are writing in English, and I don't need a translator. I mean, I think this is a fringe case thing.
I follow a lot of people who post in nothing but their native language, and I will go to Google Translate and translate their posts.
Right.
Yeah, but I think you would admit that you're a fringe case, right?
I don't think it's a fringe case. I think we're
They're-
arrogant
I-
Americans, and it's easy to
I
to
will
say
admit that
but
I am definitely some kind of case. Yeah.
on many
There you
levels,
go.
Pam is a fringe case, but not on this case. But
But I
no,
listen,
no. Listen, what if
I
you're in
read
Europe
things
and
all
there's
the
like
time.
100 different languages, all in what Craig, you and I would think of as countries the size of our states.
But most Europeans actually speak all of those languages.
Right.
They don't speak
And
all
you
of them.
gotta-
They all
in
speak
English
English
is the
usually.
language of business, so most people that are doing business speak English.
I mean,
Wow.
That's the
this-
whole point.
That's
Michael-
an
I
Michael
don't
addressed
think
it.
wanting a
unconventional view of the
translation of
world.
something is a fringe
No,
case.
guys, I want to hear Michael's comment on this.
That's really an unbelievably provincial view of the world and not accurate.
Thank you, Michael.
What would you say is the language of business?
English is a dominant language for sure, but it is not the
For
only
business.
language.
I'm talking
of
about for business. I'm talking about specifically for business. What would
Yeah,
you
I
say
am
is
too.
the international language for business?
Let
Can
me put it this
assure
way, Michael, can I just ask you a question? You've told us a little bit before about how you got into German Practice Hangouts. Can you just repeat for us why you started learning German?
I had family friends that spoke German at home, so I got interested when I was a kid. And I've used it for work over the years, many times over the years, but not routinely. But I did do some software implementations in German-speaking countries, and mostly we spoke English in those projects, I have to admit. That said,
You're not
the
helping my
current-
case here.
Yeah, didn't you,
The
Michael?
current
Didn't you say at one
project
point
I'm
you had
on-
a situation where you had
I mean, I
some
think the question
colleagues
that I
who
asked-
didn't
Gotta
have
hear the
good
rest of my
English?
sentence,
I
guys.
think the question I
Gotta
asked
hear the
was
rest
pretty
of my
simple.
sentence.
Craig, let Michael finish.
The project I'm currently working on, I've been on for a year, and it's going to go another half year at least. I hope they didn't hear me say that. The primary language of the project is German, and when they started out, they said the language of this project will be German. That proved to be impossible with an American company because even in a company where a lot of people speak German, not enough people spoke German to make the language of the project or the language of business, as Craig says, German. It's not. It's English. So I think.
So once
I think
again, I'm correct.
yeah, in this case, I think you're correct. Except there are lots of people in the world who think their language is the language of business in their world. And
Well,
it's not
I have
up
to tell
Well,
you
but
that.
I'm talking about internationally.
I have to tell you
Oh.
that, you know, my company is a multinational company based in Germany. It's a 700-year-old company in Germany, and we all speak English.
Yeah. There are
Oh.
certainly companies like that. And I've worked on a project where we did an international project, and it was everywhere. And we started out from the very beginning, and we made in our charter statement, we said the language of this project is English. And everyone had to speak English.
I
and
just
if they
can't
didn't,
believe we're
they
even
couldn't
debating
be on the
this. I mean,
project.
it's well known that the international language of business is English. I don't understand why we're even debating this.
But let me come back to the root point. Is this function useful or not? It's useful and it's relevant because there are lots of people in the world who speak a language but don't speak it fluently. They will follow people who speak that language natively, and while they understand some things that are written, and can respond in some ways, they can't always understand everything, and the native integrated translate function makes perfect sense for Google Translate to do in Google Plus there.
And a huge number of Google Plus users are not English speakers.
Okay,
Of course.
guys.
Oh, I'd say the majority.
Guys, hang on a second. We're experiencing significant YouTube technical problems at the moment. The video essentially stopped about 6 minutes ago.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Okay, so
I
Alan,
think we're being jammed.
let me.
They didn't like what I said.
No, they didn't like what I said.
Let me see. I'll be back. Let me check it again. I know
As far as-
Craig,
Maybe, you
it
think
might
this
be the
is a
first time on
preview
record
of
I think
Monday?
I've
gone
been
on different
trolling a
sides of
little
an
too
issue.
heavy tonight.
What?
I think
What'd
I've
you
been
say?
too heavy on the trolling tonight. They've
Oh,
jammed
yeah.
us.
No, I think that might be the first time you and I have been in disagreement on a topic.
Well, actually, you came around to my way of thinking.
Well, that's probably what turned. Yeah, you're probably right.
I know I was going to say on the translate thing, they could simply make it an option. That
It is an option!
It is an option. You don't have to click it.
Well, but I mean, to even have it there, they could make it an option. That's what they had with the plugin, in effect.
You don't want more buttons. You've always said you don't want more controls and buttons for turning things on and off.
Really, this was an utterly trivial addition to Google Plus as their changes go.
I think.
Hey, did you slip out? Did you say as their screw ups go? Is that what you said first?
Yeah.
He did.
I thought I was the troll. Jeez.
Hey,
Dan, how are we on video?
We're definitely delayed. It's where I was joking about Natalie and the pillow fight.
Right, I've got it stuck at 44 minutes, 24 seconds. I can't get it past that point.
Well, we may be. Yep, that's where I'm stuck. 44:24. It still shows me as continue. It shows me as streaming, and the clock's still ticking. I'm not sure for if this ends up being saved. I'm looking here. It shows everything's fine, but obviously everything's not fine because if I click to the stream,
Folks, this is what we call live TV.
exactly.
the translate button, and then I have
Are we
the
posting
old.
something to the audience so they know that we haven't ignored them?
I'm talking to the YouTube folk.
Okay. What about the Google Plus people? You want me to do that?
Sure. I'm not sure how many viewers we have there, but
I
Well,
can
maybe
try to.
none,
I
but-
mean, we can restart it and do a part 2, but that would suck because that means I can't do an MP3. That means. I can reboot everything and we can do a part 2. What do you think?
since we don't know if we're alive or dead, I don't really see that we have much choice.
And I'm afraid that I have to leave because I have a.
Does anybody in the
translate button,
chat?
and then
does
I have the-
everybody
the
in the
old,
chat concur that
thing that
we're
pops up
frozen
on
up in
top
bed?
of
I've got at least
This
4
page is
people
in German,
saying
would
that
you
we're
like to
dead in the
translate it?
water.
But
And
even
now
within the
it's
Google
dead
Plus
in the
stream
water.
here, I have this
Dan
translate
is
button at
saying
the
we're dead in
bottom.
the water when he
And if I
right,
click it, you'll
that's
see
the
what it
important
says.
change.
Maybe it's maybe the problem
Don't
is
be
that
afraid,
everything I
Michael,
see
it's
from
okay.
Moritz is already in English. Let's
There's
see.
nothing to fear.
Sorry,
All right, so
I'm not that. On restarting or not, because I'm not going to be here when we come back. That was my point.
okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to YouTube. Alan, I'm going to share a link with you so you
And
can
what-
post it while I'm rebooting. That this will
What
be the
link?
new.
This link is the new YouTube link?
Yeah, this will be the new YouTube link.
Okay.
Um,
So we're officially stopping this show?
I'm not sure yet. I'm going to do this while I test that. If
Well,
it
we're not going to
recovers,
stop this hangout in any event, right?
We can keep this hangout going. But I'm on separate computers, so what I do here, I can't copy and paste into the hangout chat.
Or do you want to just do the second part as just a regular hangout on air? Just in case there's some kind of a problem going on with streaming.
Yeah, because that'll cause other problems.
That would be a pain in the ass. All right, new live event. Google Plus Week Part 2.
And Pam, nobody's deleting YouTube comments. They just sort of disappear sometimes.
Yeah, what is the deal with that? It looks like someone's deleting this.
No, it's just YouTube being shitty.
Not all that unusual.
It's normal. I see them disappearing all the time.
By the way, I almost have enough users, enough followers to get to
Oh, the first thing we got to do is push that.
time or live YouTube live.
If you're sending me something, Dan, I haven't gotten it yet.
I will in a second. I've got to get the.
Okay.
I'm setting the encoder setting, then it gives me the thing. All right, save changes. Let me click that. Copy link address. Go to Google Plus. Go to Hangouts. Go to Alan. All right, this will be the new. And what's up with Anthony Klauser's internet? He joins and then disappears.
He's probably on a Windows machine.
Right.
All right, so before we do that, let me do one last check to make sure.
Well, am I going to publish this or not?
Not yet. Let me do. I'm going to go
Okay.
do one last check here to see if we're streaming again. You can't even go to live if you're. It says live. I have the translate button, and then I have the old thing that
44,
pops
whatever.
up on top here. This
44,
page is in
22.
German. Would you like to translate it? But even within the Google Plus stream
God,
here,
what if
I have this
we were, like,
translate button at the bottom.
Given the freaking
And if I
Right,
click
that,
it, let's
that's
see
the
what it says.
important
Imagine.
change.
Maybe it's yeah.
What we were doing was almost as important.
Yep, stops at 44:24. Okay, so I'm going to close that. I have no
We're
idea if it's
officially-
me or them, but what I'm going to do is obviously I'm going to have to reboot just in case.
Can I repost that YouTube link that you just sent?
Are we officially switching to that one, Dan?
Yep. And
Okay.
probably all this will be recorded. So if this is recorded, we didn't do anything naughty. So yeah, we'll go ahead and I'll stop the stream. So thanks, guys.